I'd like to welcome everyone to this June, or I believe for the June meeting of the City of Charleston Planning Commission. My name is Charlie Carrish, I'm the chairman. I'm joined by Vice Chairman Ariel Sane to my right, and to my far left is Mr. Bart Jackson, then Donna Jacobs, and Rita Brian Jenkins. And to my right after most Sane is Eric Harrison and McKenna Joyce. I think I got everybody tonight. So the way we'll run the meeting is I'll read an item into the record. And we hear from staff and from the applicant. And we hear from anyone in favor of the application, anyone that may have some concerns. And we'll let the applicant address any concerns that were brought up. After that, we'll close the public hearing. The commission members will discuss and vote on. If you have a cell phone, I'd ask you to turn it off, put it on silent. If you come up to speak tonight, please come to the podium, tell us who you are, where you reside, if you're representing someone. Did I miss anything?
I think you got it.
Okay, Mr. Morgan, you want to introduce any staff members that you present?
Sure. I'm Christopher Morgan, planning manager here at the City of Charleston. Also working with us tonight, Anna Hart, our senior zoning planner, Molly Connor, our annexation planner, Amanda Cox, the planner who works with the planning commission directly, and Philip Overcash, and then our clerk is Jasmine O'Neill.
Okay, I know we have the deferral on the zoning summit too. Anything, I mean, any other changes, Mr. Morgan?
No, other than that, the rezoning at 835 Magnolia is deferred.
Okay, great. First item on the agenda, and also joined by Mr. Hirsch.
Thank you. Sorry for being late.
No, you're okay. Good to see you. The first item on the agenda is minutes. I know there's corrections need to be made. Ms. Bronte, would you address April? I know there's some concerns on that one.
Yes, Mr. Chair. If we could revisit our April minutes, the correction are as follow. Donna Jacobs was not in attendance. We had a full board, and also the minutes end where there are other minutes that should have been recorded. So if those corrections can be addressed, that'd be great.
So they were complete minutes, or they weren't complete?
They were incomplete minutes.
Okay, all right. There's a motion by Ms. Brian Jenkins, second. Mr. Hirsch?
Second.
Great, thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Since I
Okay.
wasn't there.
Great.
You said the word, somebody said April.
That was
Yes.
April, we're going back because they were.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
we'll come to May, so.
Yeah, if you can clarify what the
Okay.
motion is.
I am making a motion to our April 16th, 2025 minutes. It's Donna Jacobs was not in attendance. We had a full board and the minutes are incomplete.
Okay, all right, got it. Cause I was looking at.
Okay, no, second.
I'll second.
Great, thank you, Mr. Hirsch. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it.
abstained.
Okay, and Ms. Jacobs abstained because she wasn't in attendance. Ms. Jacobs, you have something on May?
In May, the minutes for April say that they were voted on unanimously. And I was in attendance at that meeting and I abstained from that vote. So just make sure that I'm abstained in the May minutes for
So
the vote for the April minutes in the May minutes.
it's like a plus. So that's a correction. You're making a motion to correct that.
Yes, I'm making a motion to correct those
Second.
minutes.
Mr. Hussein, all in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is rezoning. Number one is 806 Elsie Drive, West Ashley DuPont, PMS number 35001 00080, District 7, 0.51 acres, request rezone from single family SR2 to job district JC. Mr. Moore.
Thank you. So this is a location in this kind of doo-wop area that is very mixed from a land use standpoint street. The subject properties here in yellow, just up from the corner. It's behind the old St. Andrews High School campus here. It's got a general office to the north. It's actually been occupied with a grandfathered business that's been working out of that garage. I believe it's some sort of distribution business. It's been working out of the garage that's on the site, and we'll show you some pictures of it. So there are some other residential uses nearby, but it's a real mix. And even some of the residential uses that are nearby, such as this mobile home park over here, is designated for job center or zoned for job center. But the request is to rezone this from single family residential SR2 to job center. And then we'll take a look here. This is a map that shows some of the zoning from Charleston County in relation to the doo-wop, and it does show this area as here is in the residential category. But that does not conform with our comprehensive plan, which I will go through and show you. Here's an aerial image of the property, and you can see the garage structure on the property. And here's an image of the what's on the property at present. This is the entirety of the property. And here's the street corner, and the garage building is behind this in this location if you get further back on the street. In our comprehensive plan, this whole area was shown as job center. So that is why we felt comfortable recommending for the job center. We realized that this is a very kind of mixed street, but we felt like with the prior commercial use in the structure over the street and the recommendation from the comprehensive plan that the job center request was appropriate.
Thank you, sir. Is the applicant with us? Mr. Wilson, how are you, sir?
Very well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members, Planning Commission. My name is James Wilson with Lumberton Dickinson. I'm here with Mr. Garrett Fleming, who's the business owner who's looking to use this property with a new business use that I'll describe to you. So as Mr. Morgan described, we're requesting to change the zoning to job center. And of course, Mr. Morgan described this request is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan as approved by city council, that this area is intended for that zoning. The particular use that Mr. Fleming's planning to engage in here is specialty horticulture. So you're like, guys, probably like, well, what does that mean? And basically, it means growing leafy greens and microgreens and even some edible flowers to supply to local restaurants and distributors. So it's a very small local business that he's proposing. And the building itself, interestingly, I'm told, I don't know this for sure, but I'm told that warehouse building was used by the icy company for selling ices at the store, for their equipment or stuff like that. So Garrett's planning to reuse that building. He'll grow some things inside, some things that he grows inside, and some will be outside. Plans to extend the sort of existing fence. And on the left-hand side of the picture you're looking at is a small little preschool. That property is zoned PO, general office, meaning has a commercial zoning. And they've got a fence there, and so he plans to extend that fence down, around the property. The nature of this business is it's really low impact, meaning there's Garrett, and he's got one employee, and they do picking typically in the morning, and then load up for deliveries. So there's negligible traffic. Obviously, there's no heavy equipment involved in that. Oh, the plant's grown outside, growing these vertical kind of planter growers that are about my height, or 6 feet. And very limited sort of activity here. White growth plants, mostly some picking and loading once a day typically. The area, as Paul described, is already kind of a mix of residential and non-residential uses. Behind the property, as you see, perfect, thank you, Ms. Morgan, is the parking lot for the old high school and the football stadium you see right there. And then, as I said, right next door, the preschool building. And Garrett and his family actually live nearby. I'll even tell you exactly where they live. So Garrett has actually gone out and knocked on doors to meet with as many neighbors as he could find and describe to them what he's proposing, and the ones that he was able to meet and talk to were all very supportive. Just to describe one more thing I would like to mention is the job center description in our zoning code is that it is intended to promote small entrepreneurial businesses. Uses are typically low traffic generators, do not have external environmental effects across property lines. All of these things apply to what Garrett is proposing. And this district is supposed to be an appropriate transition between residential uses and more intense zone districts. We think that this proposed use and zoning fits very well within this location. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan, glad to answer any questions. And I'd love just real briefly, I'll be quiet, let Mr. Fleming just quickly just tell you just about himself and his business.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. Thank you all for time to listen to me. A few years ago, I started.
For the record, your name and address. Thank you, appreciate it.
I'm so sorry about that.
That's all right.
Garrett Fleming, the address is 610 Watery Drive, Charleston, South Carolina, 29406.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So I'm seeking to get the zoning changed, for my business. So, 3 years ago, I had started a company and I sell microgreens, leafy greens, and edible flowers to restaurants, produce distributors, as well as, residential clients. I can't say, I'd like to reiterate my use of space is very low impact. I have one employee currently and would most likely within the next 12 calendar months be taking on an additional employee. Harvesting is in the mornings and into the early afternoon, and then deliveries are later in the day. So hours of operation, within the hours of 8 to 5. Just like James has said, I've had a met with multiple neighbors to make sure that my use of space wouldn't affect their living situations, and some of them seem very excited about the proposed use of space. Like I said, I'm live within miles of the property, and this would be a dream to be able to bike to work. I've got a young son, and this would be kind of a great way to kind of get a foothold in the community and possibly build something for him down here. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming, appreciate it. Would anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Does anyone like to speak in opposition to the application? Yes, sir, come on up, tell us who you are, where you live.
My name is Donnie Squire Senior. I've lived at 1919 Dulcie Road for 50-something years. I'm very familiar with my neighborhood. And I was shocked when I found out that the Icy building was zoned for habitat. Okay? So I didn't understand how it got zoned like that. And people have a tendency in our neighborhood, we're being forced out to join the city because we're in SPCA, St. Anthony Public Service District. All right? So last property that come in there was a school, and there's a house and school. They made a daycare out of the house for small children and put a school in there. And St. Anthony Public Service wouldn't allow them to get a permit. So they joined the city, and the city allowed them to do it. We had a property down on Dulcie Road that was untouched for years because there was an antique ammo depot located in the center of that property. They tore it down, they filled it in, and they built 3 businesses on that strip of land. They're encroaching what was a simple style of living with businesses, and they're trying to force people out. Now, I don't know about you growing plants in a metal building, and I don't know how much you're gonna do, but what happens if he's not successful? I live 200 feet from the property that you're looking at. And he had come to my house. And I found out when we seen the zoning sign up there that they were gonna change it. Now, I have dealt with the city of Charleston for 3 years to get speed bumps put on the road where he's at, because it is now a thoroughfare through there. And the city of Charleston said, well, we put the one on Dulcie Road, I guess, because I live there and I'm the one calling so much. But they said that the other road didn't need it. We have 2 nurseries on that little strip of road. We have cars running into the ditch where Ronnie and Linda live and where Lamar lives. Now, it's on a curve. And if you run it in the ditch, cars have to be going a little bit more faster than the road can handle. But they can't see putting speed humps down. They say, well, the state's got it at 35 miles an hour. So we can't put speed bumps on it unless it gets down to 25 miles. So I've seen all these changes in my neighborhood. I've lived there 50 years. I know a lot of people about it. I've even been referred to as the mayor of Dulcie Road. But I don't have anything against you using the building. The building's been used for 50 years that I've been there. It was limited to a few trucks going in and out each day. Now, I know you don't plan on your business not expanding. And if you're not successful, you're gonna sell. So I'm concerned about my neighborhood or what's really gonna happen to that piece of property. Now, it's been there, that building's been there. And like I say, it hasn't been any trouble for the neighborhood. But like the 3 buildings that I was talking about earlier, we can hear boom, 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 boom. And that's a business that's supposed to be for health sake, health reasons. But music is loud enough, they can come down from 1 block. And I have double pane windows in my house and I can hear it. I'm sitting on it.
Yes, sir.
So y'all in the zoning business have looked out for businesses and not for residents. So I think it's time that y'all take into consideration what the future holds for a man that's lived there 50 years.
Yes, sir.
And after saying that, y'all leave us alone for 25 years, I won't be here. I'm 81 years old.
Yes, sir.
So,
I hope you're still here too, though.
I hope so,
Well, thank you, sir.
but that's my opinion. Now, if he could sit there and say, well, I guarantee you, I ain't gonna have 2 people working, and there ain't gonna be 1 or 2 cars going in and out a day. I don't see how he can make a living to support his family.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Come on up, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Bruce Marshall Reed. I live right here. And I own this property right here. And I also own a property right here. So I have 3 properties in the neighborhood. I find a fence, first of all, when you say, oh, it's a mixed residential neighborhood and going commercial. This has been a residential neighborhood since my grandfather lived there, raised his children, my mother. This used to be the old high school. This parking lot was dirt at one time, and they filled it in and asphalted it, which caused water problems in the neighborhood like you would not believe, because the water cannot percolate down anymore. It runs towards there. Every heavy rain we have, there's a ditch that runs right along that line right there, and it floods. So if there's gonna be more asphalt or an asphalt parking lot out there, it's gonna add to that water and the flooding. Now, what he says sounds great. I mean, that would be great. I'm totally into it. I have a small farm in Ravenel. I love doing that kind of stuff. And the only problem is, again, we've got a bad taste in our mouth for this area down here. They built 3 buildings down here, and they've got maybe 3 or 4 businesses in each building. And some of them are car repair shops. Some of them are CrossFit centers, and that's one of the biggest problems we have is with CrossFit center, because they'll raise the garage doors and crank up the music, and just there's no way of controlling the music. I mean, you're gonna feel the vibration because that zoning is called Tiger Swamp. And it was for a reason, because it's just kind of a muddy underbase underneath that had been filled in. So you can feel that vibration. Anybody knows low frequencies carry forever. You can feel them before you can hear them. We have a real problem with them, and that's what we're worried about. Our neighborhood is becoming infected with businesses there that came in there, we had no say. Businesses here, we had no say. And now we're gonna have, that school came in, and the traffic has increased probably 20-fold, maybe even more than that since school's been in there. Because every morning parents dropping off their children and picking up the children. The school's fine, we have no problem with the school itself. But again, they get flooded out every time it gets flooded. But the traffic has become a problem. You know, parents run late sometimes and they have a tendency to give a little gas to their cars. That's why we had to have speed bumps. We had one put right about here and one down here. As soon as they come over that speed bump, it's pedal to the metal again and they're speeding down. Now, this road right here goes up and turns into Elsie Drive. That's the one we're trying to get speed bumps on, because that's just a cut through from Whopper Road. Instead of going Whopper Road down to Highway 17 and turning to go south, they'll take this cut off here, go through here, and then they go to the mall and everywhere else. The traffic has got insane, and somebody's gonna get hurt from the traffic. So the two biggest things we have is with development comes water. You pave over anything. That place got paved over. They got retention ponds, yeah, beautiful retention ponds. Those things fill up quick. And the ditches fill up quick after that when they go in the overfill. And that parking lot right there, the water will come up from that ditch all the way to half of that parking lot right there and backs up all the way into our properties. It's like the tide comes in when it floods over there. That is another thing that we're concerned about, you know, asphalt for flooding. And besides that, the business sounds fine. We're all for that part of it. It's just what does that business bring with it? If it's like, you know, 4:30 in the morning making deliveries and you're coming in there and trucks beep, 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 backing up into a loading dock, you know, for us around there that don't have to get up anymore, thanks to retirement. You know, that kind of wakes you up sometimes, and sometimes trying to get back to sleep is a real pain. That's what we have to say there. If there's any questions, I'll be glad.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming too.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Would the applicant like to respond?
Thank you, and thank you, gentlemen. I'll just be very brief. Needless to say, Jared doesn't want to have any negative impact on the neighborhood, wants to be a good neighbor. We do think the proposed use is a good one at very low impact, not a traffic generating one, not a noise generating one. The horticultural, you know, growing things use, obviously don't need to do any paving for that, just the opposite. And the history of the property, of course, is, you know, is commercial for this particular property. And we think this is a pretty good reuse of this old warehouse building. It's a good way to use commercial property in a new and low impact way. Obviously, the funding intended for his business to succeed. In fact, he's, you know, expanding the business, what he's doing here. So, you know, he has been successful, and so obviously hopes to, but that's obviously no guarantee that it will always succeed. But you know, we think the city's job center zoning district does have good restrictions in it. So, you know, if for whatever reason this use stopped at some point years down the road, we do believe that the JC district has restrictions. It isn't, you know, what I was reading to you earlier, it's intended to sort of be a transitional low impact zoning district. So it's not GB. It's not like anything could go in here. And the restrictions on hours of operation is supposed to be low traffic impact, those things. So at any rate, completely hear that and makes sense. We want it to be a good neighbor. We do think the rules are appropriate for that, and that this particular property with its history makes it appropriate for this change.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. That'll close the public aspect of this. Mr. Moore, let me ask you a quick question. What else can go in the job center district? give me some examples of.
It's low impact commercial uses. I believe that you can have these kind of entrepreneurial like boarding studios, and you can have repair facilities. I think you can do carpentry and food product production type of things, because that's how they
Be a
can do
repair
the
shop, mechanics, things like.
I think there are some restrictions on that, and we should have brought a copy of the ordinance down with us. I don't have that with me, but I think that's.
We changed zoning, and I hope he's very successful, but the zoning goes with the property, so I'm just concerned what else could be there.
Yeah, because the, general business allows a lot more stuff than
Right.
like a job center does, and then. of course,
Job center, the hours are.
typically more restricted. Again, not like a general business or something like that. That they do have allowance. I know that one of the things that was ultimately allowed that were things like breweries that you would brew beer, because it was kind of a food product station and all like that. But I don't think anything was allowed that was past like 11 o'clock at night or anything.
Mr. Morgan, it's 9 p.m.
9 p.m. There we go. Thank you.
Right, thanks. Okay, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Commission members, questions, comments, Ms. Jacobs?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This may take me a while, because we're gonna go back just a bit. The DuPont WAPU plan that was put together with the county and the city took a lot of input from people of residents of that area to take a very complex, mixed use, old use area and make it workable for the future. I'm very excited that y'all are here tonight and hear your comments, because just to refresh my own memory, I drove through that area, and it is unfortunate that that GO zoning sits in the middle of a sweet little neighborhood. It is all long-term residents, affordable housing, convenient. That is an old section of town. That Wapu Road is one of our oldest roads in the area. The whole reason the school is located there is it's the center of the parish. It's moved there in the late 1800s, early 1900s as the center of the parish. And a lot of these neighborhoods go back that long. It's an insult, I found, to learn that we zoned that whole area in our comp plan as job center. If you ride through the area, there aren't any businesses in there except that office. So I'm with the residents that are here tonight. I think this business is lovely. I think if you went down Belgrade Road, there's some properties for sale that's more mixed area. I know a friend of mine has a landscape business on Belgrade. But I don't think this commission should go right into the middle of a residential neighborhood and put any kind of business, because we're going to zone it forever for some kind of business, low impact or not. There'll be people going in and out, living next door. And just to tell you, I live in Burns Downs, right behind Avondale Wine and Cheese and the brewery. I live with those businesses every day in my backyard. So I'm not speaking from ignorance in the middle of a subdivision. I understand this. And I think we have to be extremely conscientious when we do this and start changing. Like if Mr. Morgan can pull up that other map that he showed before our comp plan, he will show that the entire area is yellow, single family residential, except for that one piece of property that's already zoned GO. Everything else is residential and is used residentially. And so I'm going to make a motion that we don't approve this change, because once we change this property, everybody else is going to go in this area. That's exactly what's happened. I can show other examples that I've dealt with on this commission where I fought for the residential side of it. And when you go out there and see what the business has done, they've done it in an insulting manner to the neighborhood. And I don't think we should start down this road for that sweet little neighborhood that sits in there conveniently. So I'm making a motion to not approve.
To deny the application. Okay, fine. Is there a second or other comments on the floor? The Flippers?
I'll second.
Okay, the Flippers is second. Other comment, questions? Mr. Lassane?
Yeah, question of staff, Mr. Morgan. You mentioned that the business has been operating there for a number of years and it's grandfathered. What are the conditions on which it operates there?
They would be able to continue as long as they don't expand beyond what they've got. They couldn't add on to that building. And yeah.
So it's grandfathered in SR2. It's under the.
So it's a.
How about if they sold the property?
that wouldn't, as long as it's the same business, it could stay there, or a similar business and was.
That's one thing I think we kind of have, our responsibility is to look at it, you know, the long term, not only just this particular use, but what the impact is going to be down the road, because we do know that these things have dominoes.
Other questions,
And
comments?
just to back up, I drive through this area routinely, and I have friends that live in this area, and there's a lot of history in this area that we're discovering that a lot of people don't know about. And the new slave cemetery that sits in front of St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church that most people don't know.
Right.
And so if you start changing this whole residential area, it's gonna go fast. It really will. And it's.
I'm not trying to interrupt, but let me see if anyone else wants to speak on the matter, and then we'll come back to you as well. So I'm sorry. Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Yeah, and I asked the question and it kind of, the floor left me, but, you know, I look at this zoning map, and then you look at the DuPont Wapu plan map. And I'm sympathetic to the property owner, and I think everybody has said it, that this use that he's proposing there and is currently operating is probably compatible with the neighborhood. But as a commission, we have to be concerned about the long term. The use goes with the land. And I, you know, I regret I wasn't on the commission, I don't believe, when the school rezoning took place. And I do think that's incompatible. And I don't think we do anybody any favors by compounding what looks today like maybe a bad decision, but I can't speak to that. So I think I will support the motion.
Right. Mr. Moore, let me ask you one more question. So you say he can't expand it under the current zoning, it's grandfather.
Right, right. And it has to be the same type of
Who
use. So
monitors that? If somebody has to file a complaint that says,
it's when a business license would be applied
Okay.
for, that would trigger it. So for example, if the rezoning hadn't taken place and the gentleman who's got the application in had chose to, go in and get his business license, we would have said, well, you can't get a business license because it's single family residential. And it was, there was a previous grandfather business in there, but he couldn't have a new type of business in there without changing the zoning to something that's compatible.
thank you. Other comments, commission members, anyone? Ms. Jacobs, I'm gonna come back to you.
I could be on the soapbox for a while about this, but
Okay.
I think I'll get off of it because I feel very strong.
Thank you. So if no one else wants to speak, there's a motion for by Ms. Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
I guess, I remember, what is it called? Chuck used to always say, wrong, right pew, wrong church. So I think this might be a question of more of a use variance than coming here for a rezoning. So I think a use variance is maybe a better option, since the type of use may not be objectionable, but the zoning would be objectionable.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. So there's a motion on the floor by Ms. Jacobs, second by Ms. Lampsis. Any other discussion? And the motion is to deny the application. Second by Ms. Lempes. All in favor of the motion to deny, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone in opposition to the motion? So I believe there's nine, I think, nine in favor of the motion to deny and none opposed. Thank you. I appreciate everyone coming out.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, number 2 is deferred. Number 3 is Pioneer Alley, 105 Cannon Street. We want to take 3 and 4 together, Mr. Morgan.
We'll probably have separate votes on those,
All right,
but, you know, they are completely interrelated.
okay. I will take a deal with Pioneer Alley, 105 Cannon, Vincent Elliott, Canberra, TMS number 441, 502, 003, 004, 05, 006, and 163, Council District 6.61 acres. Present zone from 2.5 to 3 Old City Heights District to 3.5 Old City Heights District. That's more than that.
And maybe it makes some sense as we're talking here that we go ahead and go into the PUD information.
Okay.
And then we'll also make a.
Read that number 4.
Yeah,
Let me read that correct as well. Number 4 is Pioneer Alley, 105 Cannon Street, Peninsula Island, Canberra. Same tax map number, correct? Same acreage, 0.61. Referee zone from London business, reverse residential, LB and DR 2F plan unit development. So both of those are now direct in this moment.
okay, great. So, this is a property and development group that's been working with us for several years on this. And there's been a huge amount of discussion and staff input and neighborhood input into, you know, what is before you tonight. And so I think that's made for a much better project and something that, you know, of course, we are very supportive of. And I believe the neighborhood was very supportive of. But this is an area in the Cannonboro, Elliottboro neighborhood that has served as kind of surface parking lots for a number of years. Those of you who have been here a while might remember the Hominy Grill that was in this location here, and this for years was the parking area for the Hominy Grill. And now I think it's MUSC and other parking that's located in the nearby neighborhood. Here's an aerial image of it. You can see the parking areas that are laid out. So clearly it's something that, you know, needs a stronger neighborhood oriented purpose than just a parking lot. And I think that that's what this PUD is going to allow for. Essentially, it's a mixed use PUD on property that is already, you know, allowing mixed use, this limited business area, and then a residential portion that would have the residential components of it. But it would still function together as a mixed use PUD. And it would allow for commercial space of up to 5,000 square feet, and then short-term rentals for 11 units, and then market rate units of 9 market rate units at about 36% of the area, and then workforce units of 5 workforce housing units that would be 20% of the overall residential. And that's very much in line with our recommendations with PUDs that have come before you all over the last few years. The comprehensive plan calls for neighborhood, and that was designed to kind of protect the surrounding residents from, you know, greater densities than many. While this PUD is greater density than would be in the neighborhood recommendations, it is something that the neighborhood has been very supportive of because of the nature of how the density is being created here. And I'll let the applicants talk a little bit about the sizes of the structures that they're planning, things like that. But that's, you know, the whole effort that's gone into the PUD and the support from the neighborhood is something that's made us feel comfortable with recommending for it, even though the neighborhood designation wouldn't say quite as much density in this location. This is an overall layout here of the PUD, and the overall mixed use and the more intensive commercial use would be up here in the corner. And a very appropriately designed corner building there. And of course, that surface parking lot has been kind of one of the missing teeth on some of these streets, the Cannon and Rutledge Avenue areas. So that is something I think the neighborhood's very excited about, getting a hand in the building in that location. And then the SDR area would be here in the orange. And then the other residential areas would be here in the yellow. And there would be a connected roadway that allows for pedestrians and vehicles that goes between actually the Cannon and has parking along it and provides all the access needed. Here's a potential layout of the buildings You see again, the restaurant, commercial space there, office retail, and then, the other buildings that were part of the short-term rental and the residential buildings and all the densities here. And again, 20% of the workforce, of the residential would be workforce. So that's very, welcomed, by both the city staff and, the folks in the neighborhood. And, we are recommending approval of the PUD.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Morgan. The staff with us?
Yes, sir.
Good to see you, sir. Come on up.
You doing?
Yes.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Todd Richardson. I'm a principal with Synchronicity. We're located at 69 Moore Street, downtown Crawford. I'm the project land planner and landscape architect. I also have a project architect with me tonight, Steve Reeves. We're very excited to be here. As Christopher mentioned, this is a culmination of over 2 years of work between us and the clients who've been in the neighborhood and own these properties for, I believe, over 30 years, and also adjacent parcels as well. We've worked a lot with the neighborhood association, with planning and zoning, housing and community developments, and we've had, I believe, technically 4 reviews at URC over this project over the past few years. Also met with Councilman Gregory and Mitchell several times to make sure it is Councilman Gregory's district, but also Councilman Mitchell has been involved because we are wanting to provide workforce housing units. Having worked in this area for almost 2 decades now, and worked here with physical offices, it's been great to see the neighborhood evolve. And we've had a lot of things change. Two-way street conversions, which we needed for a long time, we still need some more. Having this become the really cool, hip, dining culture corridor, adding in the short-term residential overlay, and how that's gone through and really seen some great neighborhood commercial pop-up retail. It's a very lively street. When I first moved here in 2007, it was a lot different. And I think it's all for the better. And what we always strive for with our firm and with our clientele is finding the right harmony and balance when we look at these very surgical infill neighborhoods. You don't see me here much with a simple square rectangle shaped parcel. But that's great because that adds to the kind of flavor of the neighborhood and the creative solution that we put together as a team. Several years ago, probably 5, we did one of the first height story requests at 144 Cannon Street, along with one of the first, I believe it was the first mixed use 1 workforce housing HUDs or zoning districts. We were excited when we started this project to continue down the same path. Unfortunately, there were some zoning changes that occurred, and MU1 district is not available here at all. So what we set up, very open book with staff, is we want to write a PUD. This is a very small PUD that mimics all the benefits that you get with mixed use 1 workforce housing for the city. And so that's effectively what you have. We can't call it that, but that's what it is. And so it's been our goal to provide what we feel is necessary neighborhood commercial, adding to that restaurant culture that we find rich in Kenneboro, Elliotboro, and also providing some small office space desperately needed. It's very hard for firms of our size and smaller. We only have 12 people to find a great neighborhood office in a place where you want to work and walk and eat and live. So we're very excited to work with Steve on the programming of that and integrate the units throughout. So we have 5 parcels here that comprise 0.61 acres. 4 of those parcels are LB, and they do come with STR rights. And then you have 1 parcel, which is DR2F, which comes with a high density residential, straight residential zoning. So the goal here was to convert and basically downgrade / down zone, if you want to call it, the impact of the work of the short-term rental units to provide them the flexibility to add in the workforce housing units and then have market housing interspersed throughout along with the commercial. So, you know, by right, you can come in and do 8 large, multiple bedroom, short-term rentals. Those have a certain demographic, and our clients actually in the 2 adjacent properties next door, 107 and 109, which are the smaller type of short-term rentals where you have like 2 bedrooms. That's a totally different market, totally different demographic. It tends to be more of a historical walking, eating enthusiast. So that was the goal here was we don't want to create a party block, right? So we want to change those units. And then we want to find a way, they really want to leave a project of legacy that fills in. This is, I joke, it's like a hockey player's mouth. There's just a couple teeth missing. That's kind of how this has always been. It's this weird snake in property that has 81 parking spaces on it. And that actually is a pretty high traffic driver when we talk about peaks, AMs and PMs, and we can get in that later if you need to. So coming back with something that fits all of those markets and putting in the right combination of buildings. And then also we plan this thing all the way through. You know, what's really great about the city of Charleston's HUD process in particular is it's a very plan forward and technical review forward process. We go to TRC multiple times to make sure we have utilities right and we're meeting all the fire codes and we're looking at all the engineering and stormwater standards. And this is great. This is a high site we're in the double digits. Can you believe it? And how we're going to treat the storm water. We're going to tie in with the traffic network. And the fact that we're bringing a lower traffic peak AM and PM user than what you currently have in the parking lot, and you're getting all of those things that I've listed is really quite incredible. So last year we formally first presented with the neighborhood and got support and effectively approval from them, but we still had a lot more work to do. So we actually came back exactly 1 year later, this past June the 2nd, and met with them with the revised concept and updated and got a formal approval, which Marion Hawkins forwarded to y'all. He was supposed to be here, but he was getting caught up in traffic on his way up. And so we've been working with Janita and Stephanie in their department, and then also the councilman, and just really making sure that we've carved this just right. As you know, with PUDs, there are a ton of details in here. And I don't want to orate, but I'll be happy to answer any of your questions that you have. I can just say that this is one of those projects I'm really proud of because it's finally filling in what I think is the missing piece that this very prominent corner in Kenyon Borough and Ella Borough have had for so long. And so we're very happy to bring this to you tonight. Steve, did you just want to say a couple words? Are you good for now? He's good for now.
All right.
Well, I'm here for you, so just let me.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Appreciate it.
I got a quick question.
Yes.
The parcel adjacent to Ashley Avenue that's shown as part of the cut through, is that not part of the PUD?
So this is an easement. There's 8 feet on each side that connects to this parcel. Yeah, right here. So there's 8 feet here and 8 feet here. So it makes it combined. And one thing I did want to say, this is a driveway. Not a clear right of way. It's not a road. It does have a connection and it will be utilized with the residents. But when you have more of, let's just say, the commercial visitors, that's really going to be happening here. This is the very much more residential section. And so in working with that, as you know, being a civil engineer, working with fire to make sure our fire lane comes in right and our hose links, and we're keeping our heights. You know, I did want to mention that too. You're hearing these, though they are 2 separate items. We're asking for the next section as you can, but that is only going to apply to this one. Everything else we're keeping below 30 feet at the eave height because of the fire standards that we are willingly complying. So what we're talking about is bringing this building up to actually match the height and use of the old Omni building, the new event center for, I can't remember, it was Sammy, yes, Trim Sandwiches. So that is also a 3.5 story building. So we're basically coming in same, just on that corner. Everywhere else is coming in comfortably at the same height that we have with the adjoining neighbors.
So the driveway is one direction or 2 directions?
It's 2, but it's not, it's one of those, it's wide enough to handle if you need it, but it's more of a pause and like B Street or Bull Street, I should say. It is wider here, it's 20 feet. And then we've got it a 15 out of throat, wider than 20 here, and then 16 here in matching this current easement. We're being very, sensitive to our neighbors that we have right here who are adjacent to that.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, or more of a comment. So one thing is the concept of the short-term rentals. So it says you're gonna have 11 STRs. But as I was reading the full definition, it did say that there will be detached and attached single-family home sites. So I understand that. So are the STRs gonna be actual dwelling units that can actually be permanently occupied if someone chooses to do that? Or are those going to be like fixed STRs and not actually be like a dwelling unit, like a true single family or apartment style building that can be occupied 365?
Great question. Every unit will be able to be occupied 365.
Okay,
We're building it to that high standard.
all right.
And then some of them just have the use rights.
The use rights, okay,
Correct.
so I think that might be something that, I know that this is for planning commission, but I think definitions are gonna be real important because somebody's gonna say, oh, everybody can do it now.
Right now, yeah, no.
And
heavily
knowing,
restricted.
and knowing that like on certain parcels, because the definitions do get a little wonky,
Right.
about, why that there's only 11 that can be utilized on that parcel.
Correct.
But they also are at the same time actual dwelling units.
Correct.
So I think that's something that you might want to massage and putting the definitions in there.
Correct, and this is funny because I ran into this, and staff did too, when we did the Jubilee PUD last year. It straddles the line of an accommodation use. And so we reference that as an allowable, it's coming in more of an accommodations, which has a bit of a different, because in the city of Charleston, a short-term rental has become its own definition just here on the island. It's different in other municipalities. When you say short-term rental, it could be a little apartment that you bug out in. Here,
Yeah.
STR is sometimes interpreted as almost like a granny shack in the back that I rent out from time to time, but I still occupy my main residence in here. And so throughout the map, just for example, the majority of our workforce units are here and the STRs, these are combined. There's a workforce on the first floor of these and then an STR here and here. Everything else is market rate.
Mhm.
So we've kept that kind of intensity coming and going up here and just a little bit back here.
And this is something I know this is, because you can't do it in a PUD. I too have to go back to that whole definition too, because if you're selling them fee simple, right? And there's a restriction on the total 11, but they're still fee simple because it has a PUD designation and not a commercial designation, it won't be, and you've already given away the 11, the 12th one cannot be an STR.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's
Heavily
gonna,
restricted.
somebody's going to try and.
And I'm glad you brought that up too, because I did also want to mention we extended the minimum that the city was looking for. They were looking for 15 years. We were able to do 20, and we also removed the fee and lieu buyout.
Okay.
So as far as I know, we're the first project to do that. And so that's the importance of the legacy that the clients want to have, is that these are real units. We want to help people start that generational wealth path with attainable stuff that happens at a great transit intersection, because we also have a car to stop here. I don't know if y'all knew that. So we're really putting it in, like when you look at like job center definitions and things in the comprehensive plan, which I put in here at length, that really hits it because it hits right at our transit network.
Okay, now, any questions of the application?
I just want you to clarify that you're only asking for this height change for that one parcel,
So it has,
because all the parcels are listed. That's
so it technically goes for the whole PUD.
okay.
But what I can tell you as an assurance, the way that the links are and the way that the fire code is, it would be so difficult to make these 3.5 stories.
That's not a problem for me.
Right.
I just wanted to clarify what you said.
But from a use,
All I wanted.
we only want to do it here.
Okay, if there are no other questions from commission members, thank you, sir, appreciate it. Anyone like to speak in favor of the application? Yes, sir, come on up, tell us who you are, where you live.
Hi, I'm Bob Holt. I live at 6 Tully Alley, just down the street from this. Marion Hawkins, the neighborhood president, asked me to come and speak on behalf of the neighborhood and to just sort of give you guys a perspective of why we supported this and what assurances we would like in your approval that are of importance to us. Todd cited the first one, and that is that there be no buyout of the workforce housing. As you guys, several of you noted in your last application that was before you, what you're doing here is zoned. And these guys, although they say they're going to develop it, we all know, we've seen projects in the city where people for one reason or another, and it can be, they can have the best intentions today and not be able to swing it 3 years from now, or they get a price tag 3 years from now, and it's much different than they thought it would be. And so they sell. And so now you have just any developer that wasn't involved in the process. So for us, having the workforce housing was integral to our support of this, and really workforce housing, not that they can write a check, work the math, and God knows, you know, right now, supposedly it's expensive with the latest generation, but is that gonna get upgraded? 5 years, is that gonna be expensive? In 10 years, it might be pretty cheap in 10 years. So if council doesn't continue to update those numbers, it could be really cheap. So we don't want that. So that is very important to us. The other thing that was very important to us, Steve did a phenomenal job on the former building. Steve has done buildings. He has finished the Charlie, which he designed, which is a stone's throw from this, which is absolutely beautiful. He did the hotel on King Street, right in the block between Morris and Spring that just opened up. It's beautiful. He's done beautiful work around town. It was integral to our support of this, our neighborhood support, that there be a beautiful building on that. And what we are very concerned about, and we just expressed those concerns to Todd in the meeting, is that actually get built, that it not be materially different than what was presented to us. Todd tried to comfort us with design guidelines. Design guidelines are controlled by the developer. So if you read those design guidelines, they say the developer is the one who approves that. So it could in fact change. And the only backstop to that is the BAR. Walk around town and see how much of a backstop the BAR is to bad architecture happening in this city. There is bad architecture everywhere. And that is not what we want on the corner that's there. Steve presented that, Steve and Todd presented that to us, and that's what we like. We don't want it to be materially different. So we don't have a problem with design guidelines as long as the backstop is that the next developer in line can't materially change, can't approve anything there that is materially different than what they proposed. And I didn't know this was going to be divided into two, so not sure it's, I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about that now, because it has nothing to do with height.
Anybody wants to talk on either item, 3 or 4?
Okay.
Go ahead and discuss it, because we ran into losing the record.
When they showed you the design of the building, I think you're gonna fall in love with it. We did, you know, as a neighborhood. And this is, and I think Todd in his presentation said, this is an important corner. And it is. It's absolutely an important corner for us. And having something beautiful on an important corner. Our neighborhood has historically supported, we supported a density variance at the corner of Cannon and St. Philip. It's a beautiful building was designed there, and it had been just junk. And we wanted a beautiful building on that corner. We care about the neighborhood, the long-term impact of the neighborhood, and building beautiful buildings. So when you see it, I think you'll understand why we don't want the next developer who comes with this PUD wrapping up cheaper materials, ugly materials, you know, another building because they don't want, you know, Steve's buildings aren't cheap. Beautiful buildings aren't cheap. And so quid pro quo. So we support, we know that. So we supported the extra density. We supported the additional STRs to give more money to a developer coming in there, whether it's these folks or not, a developer coming in there and being able to do something. That was beautiful. So it's very important to us. If you guys are supportive of it, if you would attach the condition that nothing that gets built there could be materially different from what they are proposing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the application? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the application? Ms. Richards, would you like to say anything else? I mean, there's nobody in opposition, but if you'd like to.
Yeah, and I'll have Steve go, because he actually.
Okay.
Yeah, there's.
There's a letter in opposition.
Sorry, we'll do that one second, but
Are you opposed to?
let me read the letter into the record.
Oh, yeah, there's a.
Saying, Mr. Morgan, would you like to read that or surmise it?
It's a pretty lengthy one. You all have copies of it.
But for the record, so that.
And it
for the applicant, yes, so the
it's
applicant can
repeated.
respond to that.
Sure, it's also repeated word for word under the PUD application as well. And so was turned in for both the PUD application and the height change.
And I can respond to that.
Okay, well,
And then we'll fill the letter.
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
And also, yeah, you're gonna support a letter of
Right.
support, right?
And I think,
Letter of support from the neighborhood. Yes.
and Mr. Holt was reiterating the
Would
letter.
you like
Okay.
to comment on that submission or anything else? Well,
Happy to comment on that submission. And that's the thing too, I think that the young woman who lives in Leo Lane, which is over here. We never had any interface with her, or anyone really opposed in the neighborhood meetings that we went before. Combine all of that. I can say that some of the comments in that letter are regarding large PUDs. Those requirements are different than the micro PUDs. And what we've done in these small PUDs, when we're frankly meeting a lot of PRC standards and fire and circulation and all that, we do a really nice job of the drivable areas that are utility corridors, our stormwater treatment, all that. Those are our civic spaces, our open spaces in between, to offset it. Wherever I can get green space, I'm gonna plant it for sure, you all know me. But as far as a lot of those requirements that I think she was concerned about, they don't apply to all the sizes. It's really everything else. I did mention earlier, we actually have much lower peak AM and PM times than what's currently there. There are no, if I read that letter correctly, that we were displacing NUSC employees who live there. No one lives on the property. It's completely a gravel parking lot. So I think it was probably just not really aware of what's actually happening on the property. So we're not displacing anyone, lower peak AM and PM, and we're gonna do a great job with landscape wherever we can. Steve, did you want to talk about the architect's guidelines?
Just briefly, Steve Ramos, architect, has been working on the project, and I also live in the neighborhood. I've lived there for 12 years on Bogart Street, and I don't know that I'll ever be able to afford to buy another house, so I'll be there for good. But I do see myself as
a few more hotels you'll be able.
What's that?
Design a few more hotels you'll be able.
Yeah. Who architect to pick? And so Mr. Holt's comments regarding the architecture are very important to me and having a high standard. There is a drawing of the corner building from the first page of the plan.
We don't have it in the slideshow, but.
We can pass it.
Just pass it. It's a small sketch. It's really big when you look at it on a big screen, but that the corner building that we've visioned for that corner of Rutledge and Cannon is something that we think will be a beautifully designed building, and it needs to be to hold that corner. And so that is of high importance to us. With these zoning requests, as you all know, it's kind of hard to attach a design to it, such as like the design that's presented here. So we did include design guidelines, which Mr. Holt mentioned, that put limitations on the types of things that can be built, the types of materials, as well as details. But as for the zoning, I guess all we can do based on the ordinance is just put forth what we intend to do in the plan, which is to deliver a high quality project. So, but we certainly take Mr. Holt's words to heart.
He'll hold you to it. That's. So thank y'all, both y'all. That'll close the public aspect of this. Commission members, we read both of those into the record. Items 3 and 4, questions, comments, or motions on items 3 or 4.
Are we taking the motion separately, Mr. Chairman?
We're doing both together, since we read them in the record, we can take them together unless you want to
I
split
don't know
them.
if they-
If you want to split them,
If y'all are very clear that your, if the
Yeah,
comments and
let's
thoughts
do
are
it.
the same on both, then.
unless someone objects, and we can take them separately if you
No,
object.
I was just asking
Okay.
procedurally if they can be taken.
Yeah.
Take it.
I will make just some nice comments. I read the PUD. I'd like to do that. I was impressed with all the aspiration in your PUD and your lofty words and your high goals and your standards. And you answered most of my questions that I listed, so I'm not going to re-ask them. But I will make a motion to approve item number 3 and 4.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. Other questions, comments, seconds?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Ms. Harrison.
So a couple of things. So I can just get this all on the record. Number one, I am never going to be opposed to a PUD that is creative. Like these, because this reminds me a little bit of Cat Fiddle. Cat Fiddle was 1 acre. This is half an acre. In regular zoning of general business, you can fit 26 residential units on a site. This one is exactly 26, so that's one thing. If it had been zoned mixed use, you can fit as much as you can park. So I think this is actually a perfect example of a new urbanism, but at the same time, maybe we need to figure out another way of calling these not PUDs, but something a little bit different to address the fact that this type of density and mixed use, it can happen on such small sites. The second thing I think is important is that the parking, it parks the site pretty well. In addition, going back to public comment, if you know, I remember reading the book Charleston Fancy, and Mr. Holt and his brother had been mentioned multiple times. So he's very attuned to like what a PUD is, since he has fit 54 units on like less than 4 acres many times. So I think this is kind of one of those opportunities where the architecture will be good because Mr. Ramos knows what beautiful architecture is for many years. And I think the only thing, and I know that will go to city council, but I do think the definitions are going to be very important because people will look to this, the matrix works for you right now, but intelligent people always gets a little bit smarter. And so what ends up happening is that people like to move objects and suggest things that happened, like, what is it on it's below at where the accommodations uses are that were across from the Daily on King Street. Those were supposed to be in a larger building, but now they've moved to individual. So I think it's going to be very important how that definition is set up in your PUD documents and in your bylaws so that people will adhere to them down the road. Because people will point to them as examples and come back here wanting to do exactly what is not intended.
Sure.
So that's my singular comment, but yes, I second the motion.
Great, thank you. Mr. Morgan, do we need to, as part of the discussion was, there's no question that there would be no fee in lieu on this. We need to say that's included? Is that part of the PUD document?
It's part of the PUD document.
Okay.
And I also pulled up, this is a really good page in the PUD document for a lot of clarification. If you'll notice, there's a chart here that shows the different uses in the different buildings and things like that, and the number of bedrooms. And it also on the far right column, it shows what's STR, what's workforce housing, what's market rate housing. So I think that's very helpful to make it very clear where the STR units are, how many bedrooms are associated with, and things like that.
I'm going to support this, and I'd like to compliment the team because I've been thinking about this chart and how sensitive this is to the neighborhood with those smaller STRs. We all know what happens when you've got a 5 or 6 bedroom, short-term rental, and the market needs this too. This size STR. This neighborhood has been the neighborhood that welcomes the STR, and so I think it's a compliment to them to do this as well. So I think this is a fantastic design. This is what the city needs. I don't know, I'm very impressed with it and I will definitely support it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, comments? No.
Chairman, just one question with the motion. Gentleman asked that we make the design guidelines. Yeah, I didn't know that we could condition.
I don't
the
know that
design guidelines.
That's
Yeah,
Yeah, but I
process
just
we
wanted
did.
to ask a question.
Yeah.
So we
becomes-
think.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask a question for the record.
We'll hold his feet to the fire. in other words.
Okay, I just wanted to
But,
make sure.
Can I just point of order?
Yes, go ahead.
The design guidelines are included in the appendix of the. And we understand Mr. Holt's concern and we're not going anywhere that we own our property to, and neither are the.
Maybe Mr. Holt will be looking for you.
Where we wanted to make sure, and we fully agree, but just as like every legal lane and where we go, we felt like it could not be done to lock in the design because he would overstep the VAR's purview. And we don't want to see another Sergeant Jasper. So that's why we respectfully said we will do the most that we can with those in the appendix. And then we will be following those processes in every design in Kenneborough, Elliotboro. We'll go back through Mr. Holt and the board and the neighborhood that we have stood up in front of for years. So
Thank you, sir.
that's our word and our reputation.
I was just asking procedure.
But
I didn't think we could.
All right, thank
it's a good thing to just talk about, so
So there's-
everyone felt like we covered it.
There's a motion by Ms. Jacobs, second by Ms. Harrison, on items number 3 and 4 on the rezonings. There's no other questions, comments, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone in opposition? That's not in favor, none opposed. Thank you all. Thank you for your work. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is subdivisions. I guess it's gonna be Ms. Hart. Number C.
Yeah.
It's 1 Jordan Tract, Riverview Farms, downtown Maryville area, PMS on 312-00000-61. 102.58 acres request subdivision concept plan approval. Conservation development subdivision of 129 single family attached townhomes and detached homes. Zone conservation, Ms. Hart.
Well, good evening. The applicant is requesting subdivision concept plan approval for 102.586 acres as a conservation development. So that's the area, that's the property in question, that's an aerial view. And here is the comprehensive plan. Shows it as suburban. So the property is located on River Road and Dunn's Island. The concept plan is proposing the creation of 56 single-family detached homes and 73 one-family attached lots, and the rights of ways to serve those lots. The proposed rights of way meets the city standards for rights of ways for a conservation development. This is a conservation development, so it's kind of new. It's not new, but we don't see that as often as we should. So because it's new one, I figure I can give you a little bit of a brief explanation of the process that happens even before the applicant is allowed to submit the TRC for a concept plan. So the process starts with a pre-application site review where the applicant and city staff from planning and stormwater departments meet to determine if the site meets the criteria for a conservation development. All we see is the site, nothing else. Their exhibits includes attributes such as trees, wetlands, critical areas, archaeological sites, and such, as well as a preliminary stormwater management summary detailing pre- and post-development runoff volumes for the site. I know, a lot of work. If the city determines after that meeting that this site meets the requirements for the conservation development, the applicant submits a bubble diagram. I think we have it. So I think they'll submit a bubble diagram showing the proposed land use plans, including where the stormwater will be managed. This is again reviewed by zoning staff, by city staff, and a determination is made whether the request complies in concept only with the conservation development standards, and they can submit at that time to TRC for concept plan review and approval, which brings us here. So those are the things that they provide initially to the city. And that is the concept plan layout. Wetlands and grand trees are present, and the removal of grand trees, as you know, and protected trees will require approval from the city's Board of Zoning Appeals site design. The property is surrounded by residential uses and is in close proximity to the new CCSD school. There you go. So if you see right here, the area in white on the top is the new, hopefully soon to be open school. Oh, yes, then the roundabout, the river roundabout. I would like to remind you that this is, should you choose to approve it, this is a concept plan. And they will have to return to TRC for preliminary plot and road construction plans, where staff will make sure that the plan meets every single regulation from the city, from zoning and every other department, including the 2020 Stormwater Design Standards Manual, and will be approved only if they are found to meet all the necessary requirements. The city's technical review committee has reviewed and approved the concept subdivision plan for compliance with the city standards, and the staff's recommendation is for approval.
Thank you, Paul.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to point to a couple of things on this map, because I think the regional context of this is very important. So we've been working for years and years to create connected neighborhoods that traverse through this area, so that, you know, not everybody has to go out on a river road to get around. And that's one of the reasons there isn't an individual driveway here, partly also because of all the wetlands that are up here. But these previous developments were designed to accommodate these connections. And so now we're going to have a whole connected system of several different neighborhoods that create walkable streets that all the children in these neighborhoods can now walk to this fantastic new school that's being built here. So we are very pleased with how this is all coming out. And essentially you're creating a really walkable school area here on John Island.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Excellent. Mr. Weber? Good. Yes, there you go. Yeah, Raylan, I'm sorry.
Gary Whalen with HLA as 29 Pine Chalk Drive. Want to go ahead and suggest what this process has been a very interactive process for 2.5 years. It had been starting with work before with the last mayor and conversation trying to figure out how the last and the appropriate way to make this property do just what Christopher was talking about. We're trying to figure out how to have a master planned area where we've done traffic study work that actually points to the improvements that are going to be needed over a period of time. Then with whatever happens on this property, we're going to encourage the school interconnection as we talked about it. I've just read a quick statement here. Actually, it's been working on the Jordan Tract conservation development for the past 2.5 years to create and refine an innovative site plan. This plan concentrates the development, reduces impervious surfaces, conserves the oak tree canopy along River Road Oak, and preserves the remaining land as community open space. The concept proposes a low-density, environmental sensitive neighborhood that combines market rate value lots with workforce housing townhomes. The proposed community will be integrated with adjacent city neighborhoods through a public road network and system of community paths. These paths traverse the shared open spaces throughout the site and provide multiple access points to surrounding communities, eventually connecting to the new Charleston County School District Johns Island Elementary School. This connectivity allows teachers and school staff to live near their workplace and to walk to school without needing to enter River Road, as well as all the neighbors. I'm going to show you another drawing that helps emphasize what is pointed out there for the interconnectivity, because it's a very significant issue. By clustering development, the plan minimizes impacts on high quality grand and conservation trees. We surveyed 8,732 trees on this property, and we come to what we were trying to work around. So this approach fosters a sense of place and ensures residents have access to natural surroundings. As part of the master plan road system, a left turn lane improvement will be required on River Road at Gardens entrance and property moves forward, providing benefits to not just to these new residents, but you'll see in a moment, the existing residents that are there now. We respectfully request your approval on this conservation development concept plan. This project will benefit the broader area by reducing infrastructure demands, preserving significant natural areas for open space, and offering diverse, attainable housing options for Johns Island. So this, what we were talking about just a moment ago, and I'm sorry, I didn't have it in a graphic to put in for the rest, is that even the neighborhood that exists here, which has been part of the master planning of this and the traffic improvement master planning, there will be interconnection from this through the property up through here to the school site. And there's accommodation made for arrangements so that the future finalization of some of that same master plan that will happen on adjacent development here is going to go ahead and have the same access through to get to the school district. And there's going to be, they already have an access there. There will be the left turn lane improvement will be put here. And this is the traffic circle that's going in out of the school and their interconnectivity. So what happens is that everything and correspondingly sidewalks and bike trails and all that connects up that goes through and has to ebb and flow between all these neighborhoods, truly creating a neighborhood network. It's something that, you know, it's so hard to get done these days. And so it took so long to get after the planning and the improvement funding of it. This one is finally going to be set into motion. So I'm just here to answer any other questions you might have.
Well, appreciate it. It's good to see you. Ms. Lepus can tell you, years ago, we used to see you at every meeting. We don't see you so often. So it's good to see you again. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this application? Would anyone like to speak in opposition to the application?
Yes.
You go ahead first. Go ahead.
I'm gonna actually speak in favor, but.
Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, I thought you were.
Charleston Trident Association of Realtors, and I just wanted to come and say, you know, the conservation cluster is a policy that we started working on several years ago. And so it is exciting to see these policies start to come to fruition, you know, closing some of those gaps and the connections of these neighborhoods, the attainable housing that's going to go in. I was just over there on Monday. The school is out of the ground and it is coming along quick. So hopefully this development will also provide some essential housing for teachers and really be an asset to that community. So just want to say thank you and encourage more of this to come along.
Yes, sir. Thank you for coming out. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the application? Yes, ma'am. Anyone in opposition? Come on up, tell us who you are, tell us where you live.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Patricia Merkel and I live at the Gardens at Riverview Farm. And I really just would like to ask a question. I think it may have been answered, but I'd like to answer it anyway. I wanted to know why there is no access to this new development on River Road. My house is right where you will make a left and a right-hand turn out or into the development. And I, you know, why did they don't have an access, this new Jordan track?
Yes, ma'am. And so when we're finished, we're gonna let Mr. Whalen get up and answer those questions after we get them all the comments. So anything else?
That man over there, that young gentleman over there, he did mention a couple of other neighborhoods, but they also have access to River Road.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming out. Anyone else in opposition? Come on up, sir.
Good evening, Commissioner and council members. Paul Convertito, 1585 Pin Pine Drive. I live in the community right here. Okay, so I'm on the HOA board there as well. There's been a lot of angst by neighbors about this development. Some of the things we've talked about, one being access into this new neighborhood through Riverview Farms, and I think also Swaggart's Landing. It seems to us that there should be some access from River Road onto this piece of property. I understand some of the comments you made about having an interconnected community, but where that is situated, you've got River Road, which is a road that cannot handle the traffic that's currently on there. We're all concerned about the excess traffic that is gonna be come down that road based on the new school, based on the additional set of houses that are gonna go in there. And we don't know what the plan is to improve that road. There's accidents on that road almost weekly, and some of them fatalities. So I'm very concerned about the school buses going into 6-foot ditches there. I'm concerned about the excess traffic. You've got 126 homes going in there with 2 cars apiece. You're looking at increasing traffic through our neighborhood. Yeah, at some tremendous rate, maybe 150 to 200 cars per day. Some are gonna come from Brownswood Road to get through. We're very concerned about that whole impact. I know there was a traffic study done. I haven't seen what those are. We would like a traffic study of what it's gonna do to impact the gardens at Riverview Farms. Because people are gonna come through there. They're gonna cut over from Brownswood through Swigert's Landing, through this new neighborhood and through our neighborhood just to get to Maybank. Because people don't want to deal with River Road. Okay, so that's gonna be some problems that's gonna need to be addressed. And raises a lot of red flags for why so many houses in a short period of time have gone in there with no improvement to the major roadway that connects Main Road all the way to Maybank. Anybody who leaves there, unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm retired, so I don't need to get up in the morning and drive downtown. A lot of our neighbors do. And to get through the intersection at Maybank, people need to leave at 6 a.m. to get there for an 8 o'clock job.
Yep.
And it's a mess. There's accidents galore. Another concern we have is construction. When they build this neighborhood, is there going to be a construction access where trucks, heavy equipment, all that is not coming through the neighborhoods to get there? Because those roads that we live on, we have a lot of kids in the neighborhood, more moving in, which is a good thing. Those roads are not wide enough to handle the type of equipment you're gonna need to get in there to do the site work, do the building, do everything that's needed to do that. And if they have to come through Tin Pine Drive and buy this woman's house and others, it's gonna really raise havoc and destroy our roads. They're not very wide. You can have a car parked on one side of the road or on the other, which happens daily. You can't get a third vehicle through there. So there has to be some consideration for the constructive access. Is that in the plan?
We're gonna let Mr. Whalen give us some answers, of what he can answer after all the comments have come out, so. I hear you.
So I mean, those are the, some big concerns that we have. We know that that's gonna be interconnected with, everybody talks about sidewalks and bike paths. I mean, I've raised kids. How many kids actually take bike paths and all that to go to school? More parents are driving their kids to school and not taking the bus, which increases the traffic because they don't want to get on the bus. Okay, they're worried about safety on the bus, whatever their concerns are. So in theory, it sounds good, but in reality, I really don't think that people are going to use bike paths. They're not going to use the bus. They're going to end up, mom and dad going to drive to school on the way to work and pick them up on their way home. That's also going to exacerbate the traffic problem. We would also like to petition the city, if you're gonna follow through with this plan, that there's gonna have to be some speed mitigation in the neighborhood with speed bumps, those type of things. We have a small neighborhood now that's only there for local traffic. We don't have any resource to control the speed in there other than 1 or 2 speed signs to kind of keep people at a 25-mile-an-hour. Speed humps, I think, would be a necessity in this neighborhood and probably in Swigert's Landing, not speaking for them, for the same reasons. People speed up and down River Road when it was paved, which was a great improvement last year. They turned River Road into a racetrack. 90% of that road has a passing zone on it. And I've been on that road where I've seen dump trucks pass cement trucks and people passing 2 and 3 and 4 cars at a time. No reason for any passing zones on river. So definitely gonna need some speed mitigation devices in our neighborhood because it will become and eventually, I'm assuming to this part of the parcel is gonna be developed at some point in time, connecting all these. It's gonna be a cut through as well, and speed and the way those roads are designed, the width and everything else. I'm beyond comprehension as to how those roads can actually handle the amount of traffic that's gonna come through.
How many years you lived on John's Island?
6 years.
Okay. Your last name was Conventino?
Convertito. Convertito.
Okay, so not Conventino. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
That's an old Charleston name.
Cleaners.
Conventino Cleaners. Yeah,
We're
yeah,
the
no, no, I'm
cleaners.
sorry, it sounded like. I didn't mean to cut you off. Anything else?
That's really all I have. I mean, I'm concerned about the size of the development. I kind of understand also the piece of, it says multifamily homes for those workforce. Is that a typo? Because I think you said single family.
It's one family attached, which is like townhomes,
So you said single family in
one
the,
family attached.
but it says multifamily. I just.
We'll get some clarification on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for coming too, sir. Anyone else in opposition? Anyone else in opposition? Come on up.
Good evening and thank you for letting me talk. I did send in comments yesterday. My name is Stacy Meach and I live at 1414 Black Maple Way. And I live right here in this section of as an entryway into. One of my greatest concerns is I traveled up and down River Road working 3 miles from my home. And there were several days a week that I had to leave 40 minutes earlier than I needed to be at work because that 3-mile drive would take me that long. And there were several times that I did exactly what Paul said people are gonna do, cut through neighborhoods. I would go down Murraywood and I would cut through Whitney Lakes because I had a time constraint where I needed to be at my job to take care of patients where I worked on John's Island. 3 miles, 40 minutes. That is a nightmare. And what this is gonna do to not only our neighborhood, but River Road is there are no plans and there is no way to change River Road in regards to this. Accidents out the wazoo. In fact, my daughter was traveling down River Road North towards the Limehouse Bridge at 8 o'clock in the morning and was hit head on. Praise God and thank him for the hedge of protection he placed around my daughter and the safety of her car that saved her life because this was an impaired driver at 8 o'clock in the morning that almost took away my daughter's life after we just lost her father, my husband, not even 2 years prior to that. River Road is so treacherous and what it's going to do to the community of this tiny little neighborhood that has one entrance. It has 82 homes in it. The streets are already not amazing to begin with. All the construction in that little tiny bit of an area was very damaging to the roads to begin with. So I'm just gonna ask that mercy please be had on this development and create an entrance off of River Road. Every other subdivision along River Road has an entrance onto River Road. Please do not destroy what this little community has. I've lived here for 6 years, as well as many other people in my neighborhood, and the sense of community is amazing for this. I am all for connectivity to the other developments. I am a walker, I am a biker, and I want to be able to have more than just a circle to walk in. And that would be amazing for me because I do not plan on leaving that home, but to make the main entrance into our neighborhood, please, as I have looked at these plans, I have looked at them and I can see that there are areas that can have an entrance. I'm gonna ask that please, that this council ask that there be some study that will show another entrance into it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming out. Anyone else in opposition? I think there was, yes, sir, come on up.
Hi, so my name is Landon Knapp. I live at 1153 Turkey Trot Drive, so also in the gardens at Riverview Farms, and it probably will not surprise you that I also am concerned about a lack of access to River Road. So similar to what other comments we've already heard, River Road is the main artery off of the island. So I understand that there is an alternative access via Brownswood, but we know that most of the traffic is going to come on and off the river. When I bought my home just in September, so not too long ago on John's in this little small neighborhood, of course you can tell that there's going to be connectivity, and I applaud this commission for considering that. Like we just heard, it's a small loop, it's a small neighborhood, and connection and connectivity to our surrounding neighborhoods is not a bad thing. But I don't know why in my wildest dreams I would consider a parcel so much larger than ours with a larger development than ours for us to be the conduit and the main artery in and out of that development. It's unreasonable for me to have considered that. And I do a lot of planning work. I was just working for planning for a plan for a community down in the south portion of our state right before I came over here. So it's not intuitive to assume that this is the plan that we would be seeing for the adjacent neighborhood where our neighborhood is the main artery. I have a brand new baby girl. One of the reasons I moved into this neighborhood is there are a ton of children in this neighborhood. We're talking 20, 30 kids in this very small neighborhood, all of them running across the street, friends across the street. That's safe to do right now. All of our neighbors have ownership of the neighborhood. They live there. They understand that you have to drive safely in the neighborhood. Very concerned about another neighborhood and especially a cut through existing where you don't have that ownership and that participation in the community. And it puts our children, my child, at jeopardy. So that's all I want to say. Please consider an access to River Road similar to the other.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for coming. Anyone else in opposition? Anyone else in opposition?
I don't have anything to add, but I am in opposition.
You want to just give us your name for the record and your address? That you're in opposition, just so we have it for the record.
It's my name. I live on Black Maple Way, right across the street from Stacy that spoke before. My name is Patricia Florsheimer.
Thank you for coming, ma'am. Appreciate it. You're now in the minutes. Thank you. Mr. Whalen, would you like to respond and give us some answers to some of these questions that were brought up?
Sure.
I know you may not have them all, but hopefully you have some of them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess to put it in perspective, we've been master planning all this whole corridor for a number of years. Farmview is the beginning part of that planning, always intended from the beginning to have a left turn lane there, because with the corridor and the city's goals to preserve the oak canopy along in that area, there were very limited areas that were allowed to have access points, and especially the larger area needed to put a left turn lane in. So from the very beginning, it was always this same access, and it was communicated through in the design. And I can't say how the community, as people go by homes and they look at what it is and they see stubbed out roads, that becomes just something that if anybody asks us, we show them the master plans, but sometimes it takes years later before the rest of the roads get carried through. The best way to describe some parts of this is there's going to be multiple access points, not just through their neighborhood. There's the access point that comes in through from the school district, as this coming through from the Swigert Landing. There's going to be an access point here at Swigert Landing coming through this direction. This community here is going to connect up through on this side coming through this portion. It was anticipated that there would probably be some increase of traffic for at least to make sure that the speed of traffic going through the community would not be unsafe. We ended up reducing the yield in the community and putting in a traffic circle
right there coming into the project, so there'll be traffic control that way. Actually, the Farm View design itself is a road network that afforded with its turns to be a traffic calming opportunity instead of a straightway going into the property, ending up creating what we would think is a little bit more of what a raceway, if you will. The city goal to try to preserve the corridor here and not have a separate access is supported by the traffic study work. This traffic study work has been updated over the last year, but it's guided the development of the Farm View community together, this pocket of development that also has an access to River Road that will also connect up back through to this community. So you have the traffic study itself now calls on putting the left turn lane in. That will be triggered by this. Farm View didn't pay for putting in the left turn signal, or excuse me, left turn lane. It ended up just being developed because it was less traffic going up at that point. But they would not get a left turn lane put in unless this improvement was put in. So you're just seeing a sequence of how things are carried through, and it's an integrated plan. So the integrated plan ends up providing you all the benefits of that master planning for road and together with the sidewalks and the access to the school. The school came a little bit after in some of the planning process, but the advantage of that is that people will not go out and have to be on River Road from any of these communities, be it on the sidewalk or dropping a child off with their car. They'll be able to do that internally. And that ends up making River Road much safer than it otherwise would be. The Farm View community was meant to be the higher density portion of what we were doing. Their density is much higher than what this property is or these properties. And so once again, that density afforded there be more affordability in the Farm View community. It's how you try to stage these levels of housing so that there's I'd say a transition of ownership, and so the community becomes truly a more mixed community. That's part of what this community is. I think that
Site preparation and construction entrance.
again, that's the one that we actually were going to be asking what the school districts did on their access. We're trying to learn from that. We haven't established what would be the access point, and that's something we take under study. It doesn't necessarily have to come in from this direction. There could be other ways to approach it, but we have to get through this approval process before we step into the next part.
Ms. Whalen, I'm sure you'd be willing, if this is approved, you'd be willing to meet with these folks to continue to answer any questions they have or concerns?
We've always had an open door.
Okay.
We designed their community.
Okay. Well, again, you see Mr. Whalen, he's here. We really don't go back and forth, so I apologize. But Mr. Whalen said, if anybody, he's here, we'll get his number or whatever. He's usually pretty accountable. And so hopefully he'll meet with y'all and answer further questions if this progresses. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Whalen. Appreciate it. Thank you. That'll close the public aspect of this. Commission members, questions, comments, motion.
Well, I'll make my standard speech. Just so the public understands, what we're being presented with is not an approval of this plan up or down. What we're being asked to judge is whether or not the subdivision plan that has been presented, which is by right, according to the rights they have with the zoning that's on the property, whether or not this plan meets the city standards. That's what we're being asked to judge. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands we're not here to determine whether or not this is good or bad. We're just deciding whether or not it meets the city standards.
Guidelines.
Meets the city's design standards. So anyway.
Sure, I'll answer. I'll take one question. Go ahead.
So just a point of clarification to that. So the development is approved or not approved?
Well, we're doing a subdivision request, so it's not a development question, it's a subdivision request.
Concept plan.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Concept plan.
Yeah, comprehensive, whether it meets the guidelines for that.
So I think, so this is the, and Mr. Lassane is absolutely correct about what our goal. So what you saw us do in the very beginning is recommend approval or disapproval of people's application. This is one of these caveats that puts us in a quandary because we're neither recommending or approving, doing a recommendation for approval or denial. By statute, somehow, eons ago, there's this distinction about subdivision and concept plans, and that's the very first layer. So there's this kind of like pre-layer, and then there's this little second layer. And the second layer is concept, not final, not preliminary. And so, as you can tell, they've been through a series of meetings at TRC. TRC happens, I think, once a month.
Every Thursday.
Every Thursday, every Thursday, I should know that. Every Thursday, public can attend, but not allowed to ask questions. So all the technical people are there from fire, building, I mean, and I think someone said that they're in planning. So that's the technical review stuff. I do law, let them do the math on engineering and that science. And so what if we don't recommend, if we don't approve, it's still, it's basically it's something that we just have to say yes or no. Did you meet the requirements of meeting the concept plan? And that's just, and if they did, it's up or down, and we cannot change that set of facts.
Thank you, appreciate it. Good clarification. Again, we're not blessing a plan, we're saying if it meets the guidelines. Yes, ma'am.
But there are more meetings to come after that.
That's Brian, thank you.
I just wanted to say, based on what Ms. Harrison has said and what Mr. Lassane has said, I make a motion that we are for the approval of the concept plan. If there are no other comments.
Well, I'd like to second it, and I would like to just add that the bikeway and the interconnectivity is huge in this subdivision. I live in a subdivision where we have a school in our neighborhood. We have the Greenway, which is used heavily. So I think that we haven't had that opportunity on Johns Island. And this is really the first opportunity. We have been working on interconnectivity in these subdivisions for many, many, many years. We just haven't been able to tie them all together or had a school there to tie them all together. And so this kind of brings it all to a culmination. And I was unaware of that access. And I think that, obviously that should have been mentioned to everybody before you bought your house 6 years ago. This is not a change in the plan. This is what was originally planned conceptually many years ago when your development was agreed upon. And there's a reason for it, and they're putting in a turn lane, so that's going to make things easier. But please understand that bike path and the interconnectivity is critical in this. And I think that you'll see, you have a home and you have kids, and I think that you will use that, and maybe your kids will go to the school. So please don't look at that as a negative. It's a very positive, and I will second the motion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the connectivity. I think it's a strength. I think a lack of a connection to River Road, the long term is a strength, and it's a plus for the safety on River Road. But in the short term, it's inconvenient from a construction access standpoint. I would encourage you to look for alternative construction access. And long term, also look at ways to discourage the cut through traffic. Johns Island and River Road in general are horrible. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
You live over there, you know.
I do. It's drained. And everybody knows it. It's not a secret. Development has outpaced the road infrastructure on Johns Island, and that's a fact. And they're trying to catch up, but it's not meeting the pace of development. And this is exacerbating that problem. So long term, there needs to be more road projects to fix some of the larger scale issues. But the cut through issue is something that could be addressed, because that will happen, whether it's speed bumps or other things. But I would encourage y'all to look through that as you go through the technical process.
Thank you, Ms. Burris.
And maybe a construction entrance possibly with the school, combined with the school. Or that little 20 acres that's kind of that little triangle.
Yeah. Any other?
Who owns that property? That's
Goldberg.
That's an interesting
Who's
little
that?
piece there. The
Goldberg.
little triangular piece between the school and anyway.
They've had about 10,000 people.
We'll go over it. I know who that is, yeah.
Probably was one.
Okay, so there's a motion by Ms. Bryant, taken second by Ms. Lampus. Any other questions or comments? Not all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Guys have it. Thank you all. Appreciate you all coming out and we hear you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Williams.
We thank you for hearing us.
No, my honor. Thank you, ma'am.
Developmental stage.
The next ordinance amendment, D, number one, approval of amendment chapter 54, Bristol City, Charleston, zoning ordinance by correcting a scrivener's error in section 54-207. That's so saying should have caught that. Additional uses, subsection Z, and Ms. Jacobs. I can't believe that. Yeah, Ms. Jacobs, you, one thing, Ms. Jacobs. That's why she's not here. I think that's why she left. The subsection Z from ordinance 2020-097, amending part 3, section 54-207Z by changing the conditional use affordable housing lot dimensional standards for the SR6 single family residential zoning district. I don't have to ask Mr. Jacobs why she moved in. Anyway, Mr. Morgan? Sure.
So SR6 is not super common in the city, but there are some areas that have the SR6 zoning. And it was realized that they were locations that potentially could have affordable housing in. And so what this ordinance amendment would do is for properties that meet this criteria of affordable housing certified by our Department of Housing and Community Development, you could have a little bit narrower lot in this SR6 district, and you can have a little bit smaller lot area and a little bit more forgiving side setbacks, and also a little bit more forgiving lot coverage, because right now the lot width is 35 feet. This would allow it for affordable housing uses to go to 27 feet. For affordable housing, you could go from 4,000 to 2,700 square foot lot area. The rear setbacks, the side setbacks go down to 3 feet. And then the 50% lot coverage could go to 65%. So essentially, this makes it a little bit easier in these areas to make the SR6 have affordable housing. There were already some provisions of different sizes that apply to SR1, SR2, and SR3 and 4 for affordable housing as well. And there's a whole chart, and this is just making a change to that chart just for the SR6.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Would anyone like to be heard on this item, on this ordinance, ma'am? Not that close. Mr. Whalen, go ahead.
I'd probably just say, like getting up to, we recommend that this is a great strategy for working on certain infill areas, and we support it wholly.
Thank you, Mr. Whalen. Appreciate it. Your input is important, but thank you. Any other comments? If not, that close the public aspect. Commission members, questions, comments, motions?
Just a question, the scriveners, the error by the scrivener was
it's in the chart. And it's in one of these categories.
Here. I think they missed SR6.
When was that original? When was that done? That's sometime.
So it was adding SR3. I'm just.
Well, I think the chart shows SR3, 4, and 5, but it wasn't listed in the code right here.
Okay.
So that's the in black, the new part, yes. And then the cross through and underline is the change.
And so there were two problems. There was the lack of those those three categories and the errors in the chart.
And that was, we just noticed that when we were working on this SR6 stuff, because those categories are on the chart, but they didn't have this one line.
Right. Okay.
So it really is a tiny little, the whole intent of the ordinance is on the chart, and they're there.
And the errors in the chart.
Yeah.
Is that a motion, Mr. Lasang?
It is a motion. I will move to approve.
Second. Ms. Brian Jenkins, seconds. And again, I'm gonna blame Ms. Jacobs for that. It's me, for the record, since she's not here. And she should have caught that. She would have read it. So there's a motion by Mr. Sane, second by Ms. Brian Jenkins. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. I think we can take both of these zonings together, correct?
Okay.
So 1812, number one, 1812, Riverside Drive, West Ashland, Plantation, TMS 3531400204.26 acres. It was SR. And the questions on the SR1 is R4 in the county. And number 2 is 1963 Green Park Avenue, West Ashley, Green Park Park, TMS 35515000141, District 2.21 acres, again, the same. Requesting SR1, it was R4 in the county, Mr. Morgan.
Yep, and you explained them all, and they're bringing them in as the closest comparable builder, as are one.
Would anyone like
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move for approval.
Great. Let me just ask, if anyone like to be heard, just for the record, I don't think,
Yeah.
I don't think any, Mr. Whalen will say something. All right. Mr. Lassane moves for approval. Ms. Lampus is second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. For items number 1 and 2 on the zoning. Aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. Any staff updates, Mr. Morgan?
Oh, I'd like to just make a comment. I was a few minutes late. I apologize. But on the minutes, where it has Commissioner blank, I was the blank.
We did correct some minutes there. Yeah, I think Ms.
Yeah,
Jacobs.
Chris Jacobs did, but I thought I'd tell them.
Thank you.
Like, writing a thing on the side.
Mr. Morgan, anything we need to know?
I was the blank.
At this point in time,
Okay.
probably.
Thank you all, everybody. Try to stay cool out there because it's hot.